Hopefully you can all hear me. Can someone just give me a thumbs up real quick if you can hear me? Perfect. Obviously, and then how about a thumbs up if you can see the presentation, the first slide? Perfect, thanks all. Something new, well, not new, I guess we're well into a year of doing these presentations and communicating via Zoom. So thanks for your time and your patience. We generally like to do this in person, but it's the new norm that we have to work with. So just a couple things as we get started. If everyone could mute yourself, just so we don't have any interference with voices and people talking over each other and background noises, that would be great. This presentation is being recorded, just so you know that ahead of time, and also we'll be sending this out via a link in an email and on our website for the future. So if you don't feel like taking notes or we skip over something too fast and you need to clarify, down the road, this will all be available via video, the video link and presentation. So keep that in mind. And then lastly, we do have the chat function, the chat room. That's how we'll do our best to answer questions and go from there. So as we go on, I'll start looking at the chat, see if there's questions. And for sure, at the very end of the presentation, we'll open it up to any and all questions, so we can help with the information. So as we get started, my name is David Kramer. I'm the Director of Soccer and Business Development for Real Colorado Edge Soccer Club. I have the pleasure of being in charge of the entire soccer program. At Edge, we're, depending on the year, we're about a 2,500 player club. So we're fairly decent size. We range from age 3-year-olds all the way up to 19-year-olds, boys and girls, all different levels of soccer, recreational, competitive, and everything in between. So this presentation, as you can see there, is specific to players born in 2011. So the 11 and under program that's going to be offered come fall 2021. So it's current 2011s that are probably playing, they should be playing under 10 soccer as we go on. So that's the crux of this. I'll be going through several slides here. Some I'll just quickly go over, some a little bit more in depth. And then, like I said, as we go on, we can have some question and answers and try to help with any information that we need to get out. So let me get moving here. The next one. We always like to start with this. This is how we'll end as well. But we at our club, every club has different mottos and missions and visions of what they want to do. But we strongly feel at Edge, we use the sport of soccer to not only teach the game of soccer, that's the easy part, but also more importantly, life skills. And as you can see there, you're going to win, you're going to lose. We all need to respect our authority. And as we go on, not only as kids in this specific case, 10 and 11-year-olds for next year, but it's going to carry them on through the rest of their life. So that's what we value ourselves here at the club, and wanted to start off with that. This is our organizational chart. Some of you might not know that, I'm sorry, it's a little bit blurry, but might not know that we actually are a full-fledged organization. As you can see in the top part there, I'm at the top. That's my name, David Kramer, Director of Soccer and Business. On the left-hand side, we have a girls and boys competitive program. We have 4 full-time staff members. Right in the middle there, it's Adam Creasy. He's the recreational director. Some of you on here probably see him quite a bit or heard from him via emails or on the field. Sometimes he goes by Coach Tall Guy. Director of Coaching for Academy Select, Ian Richards, and then Dave Roberts, which if you've been in our program for the past couple of years or several years, Dave runs our 4s through 8s. And then down below, Todd Getty's our general manager. On the far left there, Kyle Kleberg, he's a new hire. He's kind of jack of all trades right now with all that, helping out internally, and he's also our director of goalkeeping. So that's just a broad overview of our club and what we have to offer for everyone. Next few slides, just real quick. We've been in existence for 50 years. Arvada Soccer Association is our actual business name. Real Colorado Edge is our DBA. But the club's been around over 50 years, 1969. Again, to reiterate, we pride ourselves on the whole person approach, and not just the actual X's and O's of soccer or the technical part of soccer, but to instill life skills both on and off the field. As mentioned before, we have a dedicated full-time staff to serve our players, coaches, referees, volunteers. We run the whole gamut of all that, and we want to make sure that these 4 segments really encompass and embody what our club's all about, and to help everyone out as we move on. And then as most of you know, we have some great facilities. Long Lake Ranch on the left there, Stager Soccer Complex, which most everyone's familiar with. Long Lake Ranch has artificial turf fields as well as grass fields and lit fields. So those are primarily used quite a bit by our older teams, because they can be out much later at night training when we need the lights. And then on the right-hand side, in conjunction with Apex, the field house. Obviously, we don't own that facility, but we use it quite a bit through the winter when the weather's poor. We have a partnership with Children's Hospital. So we have a full-time athletic trainer that's available year-round for the club. Currently, it's Nathan Skelton. He's out at Stanger every Saturday during league games, which obviously, as we know, we just got up and running on that this spring. He's also available on Tuesdays in person out at Stanger during the season, and then 7 days a week via email to do some consultation and telehealth. That's all free, even if you don't want to use Children's Hospital for future stuff. Using Nathan and the Children's Hospital, that's all free to our members and to get consultation. So it's definitely a very good thing that our club has going for us. And then on the right-hand side, similar again to most clubs, we have our coaches go through extensive background check, the concussion and the safe sport. Those are all national requirements that we all follow. Next step are the core values of our club. As you can see there, respect, class, excellence. Again, that falls in line with what we want to preach to and teach our kids, coaches, and anyone associated with the club, to try to preach that, act that every day. Starts with our staff and goes all the way down to everyone involved in our club. So kind of the crux of why everyone's on this presentation, you can see our pyramid starting at the bottom, 4 to 8 year old rec, 9 to 10 year old academy select and recreational soccer. That's where you guys would be coming from, the 2011s. And the next step is that yellow area, our 11 and 12 year old competitive and recreational. As you can see, there's still, growth beyond that as you get older. And ultimately, we do have kids playing college. We do have kids that play adult leagues, obviously when they become adults. So we do have a complete player pathway for kids. We do have several coaches in our club also that came through as players, and it's great to see them back, offering their time again now as a coach. Quickly here, our age group pyramid, we actually do have a plan. We have a curriculum that starts again with the 3-4 year olds, goes all the way up to our 19 year olds. You can see that middle group, the U9 to U12s, is kind of where we would be at for those of you on this, starting at U11. Again, it's still 1-versus-1s and technique and skill development, individual tactics. The reason why we put this up in the slide is, again, just to show that we do actually have a plan for the kids, regardless of what level they're at, what ability level they're at. This comes down through our full-time staff to the team coaches and then onto the field to the players. So next up for 11, what's going to look like at U11 or 11U moving forward. You can quickly see here things that we value, again, pushed down from the club through the directors. We want it to continue to be player focused, high character, technical abilities, still very important. 1 versus 1, your ability to control the ball, attack with the ball, and vice versa when you don't have the ball, to be able to defend, strike the ball, passing, receiving. We start getting into a little bit of tactical stuff. It's still pretty young age. And then the social aspect of it. It's not only about winning and losing, it's you're going to gain lifelong friends, respect of your teammates, respect of authority, coaches, referee, and spectators. So that's a big emphasis for our 11U players. So here we are, again, probably why everyone's on this presentation, you know, recreational versus competitive. As we move up to U11, the competitive side of the club's program gets introduced. We do still offer recreational soccer, and I'll get to that in future slides here. And then with the introduction of competitive. Within our competitive programming, we do offer 2 tiers. One's strictly competitive and one's an intermediate program that we call it. And again, in a few slides here, be able to explain the difference between everything. So this is just a good breakdown. You can see in the blue, it's recreational. The yellow is intermediate. The red's competitive. And again, keep in mind the yellow and the red, intermediate and competitive, fall under the competitive program banner. You can see there the difference between the coaches, the length of the season. There's obviously quite a big difference between recreational and competitive, the length of the season, how many days a week you practice, the approximate contact days per season. And I'd like to explain that a little bit more. Basically, that's how many days your child, a player will be in contact with the coach. That could be a practice, could be a game, it could be a tournament, could be a team bonding event, and so forth. But again, you can see the differences in the season based on, you know, your commitment level, what you're trying to get out of what you want for your child next season, and moving forward between recreational and the competitive program. I'm going to let you look at this real quick. I'm going to stop and make sure we don't have any chat room chat questions. Good. Perfect. There was the first question, why is there such a range in the contact days? To answer that, sorry, we're getting used to this chat stuff. Let me backtrack. All right. Yeah, the big reason for the contact days, the range, as you can see here, the length of the season, and we'll start kind of a mathematical. Recreational only goes 10 weeks per season, and then competitive can range from 12 weeks to 20 weeks. And then on top of that, it's number of practices per week. So if we look at the far right here, the contact days for competitive, you can be, if the select team, and I'll get to that here in a minute, selects our top level team. And obviously that commitment level is going to be the highest in the club. So if you're going 20 weeks, 3 times a week, that's up to 60 just practices alone. And then you add in games, tournaments, team events, and things like that, you can start reaching into that 100 days. The intermediate competitive only practices twice a week, so the numbers go down. And then on the recreational side, the you know, that's 1 to 2 practices a week for a 10-week season. So that's why the contact days are such a wide variety, and it just depends on the level of team you make, if you're playing competitive, or on the recreational side, what that team is doing on any given season. So you could see here the next The next one depends on the number of tournaments. As you can see, recreational, competitive, and this is all again based on what level of team. If you're on the select team, the first team, we do go far down as up to 5 or 6 levels of competitive teams. Again, I'll get to that here in a minute. Depends on how many tournaments you'll end up playing. In recreational, it ends up usually being 1 tournament per season. The out-of-state travel, with COVID this past year, it's been extremely limited. We've only had maybe 2 teams travel in a year based on COVID, but obviously with that and those restrictions hopefully loosening up here extremely soon, and getting through the summer and into next fall, that it gets back to some sort of normalcy, there is opportunity for teams to travel. You have the different playing leagues, so that on the left, the recreational continues to end up playing similar to what they're doing now. If you're in a, if you're in a in-house, the Denver West League or a CSA state-run league, generally it's within the Denver metro area. In the competitive, that technically could be anywhere in the state of Colorado. But again, generally the population of teams ends up being in the Denver metro area. It could go up to Fort Collins or down to Colorado Springs. But that's generally the difference. There are differences in leagues. The Champions League is for the highest of the high. You have to petition to get in. You have to show proven track record and quality of roster and all sorts of things in between. The Centennial League is another state-run league. So you can see there's just various leagues that the club will put depending on the level, put teams in depending on the level of team. The playing format's the same. Doesn't matter if you're playing recreational or competitive. And that's the same for the next 2 years, 11 and 12-year-olds. It's 9 versus 9. So I'm going to jump to the next slide, let you look at that for a second. I'm going to hop into the chat. Yep, so hopefully that helped with the range of contact days. We had a question, is Academy considered intermediate, or is there a breakdown in competitive as well? Academy Select is only for U9 and U10s. So once you get to under 11s, which the 2011 age group will be next year, there is no Academy option anymore. It's strictly recreational soccer or competitive soccer. And within that, again, these are choices that families get to make for their child, their commitment level, their interest level, how much time they want to commit, how much travel they want to do. And that generally is how we get started, or families get started on if they're going to choose to go recreational or if they want to go competitive. So in the commitment, oh, wait a second here. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat room. So that basically is, so Academy won't exist come U11. Next question was, do you have to play year round? Yeah, well, for recreational soccer, it's seasonal based, similar to what you're doing now. You can choose to play the fall season, the spring, or both. For competitive soccer, yes, it's a year round commitment. The next slide, or actually, sorry, the slide we're on right now shows that. So I'll get to that in a second. When we talk about if you want to play recreational soccer or play competitive soccer, are there tryouts involved with it? For recreational soccer, there is no tryout. Again, players, they're just based on availability level and roster sizes. So quick example of that, you can, you sign up to play, your application or registration comes in, Adam Creasy will see that as our recreational director. He'll just start placing players on teams at the recreational level. If you put in there you want to play with a couple friends, he'll do his best to get you with those friends, and usually that works out as long as you do it well in advance. And then also roster sizes, once we hit about, it's 9v9. Once we hit about 13 to 14 kids, Adam will move on to the next team and start forming roster sizes based on that. So that's what happens for recreational teams. For competitive, we do have tryouts, and that will be here in a couple slides. That is a tryout based, and then you are selected to pick on various levels of teams based on your ability. And again, we'll get more detailed on the tryout process here in a minute. The player commitment, again, it's seasonal based for recreational, fall or spring, or you can play both. For competitive, you're making a commitment, a year-round commitment, August through July. Now the season, you don't play in July, very rarely do you. And then in the winter, obviously you don't play outdoor soccer, but your commitment to the club and to your team is for that year-round area there. So the next step, the registration, this is, you know, I'll go back to the chat, see if I have any questions on that. You can see the registrations for next year. Recreational, it's $160 a season or $320 if you play the year. The intermediate part of competitive program, it's $975. And then the competitive part of competitive soccer, you can see it's $1,200 to $1,750. And that range, that's a range obviously, because depending on the level of team your child will make. Something new this coming up year that we haven't done in the past. So if anyone has current players, you know, kids that are playing at the older ages, some of these prices might look a bit higher. What we've decided for tournaments on the recreational side will stay the same, where you just pay per tournament each kid. For the competitive program, all your in-state tournament fees are included in the registration fee moving forward. That includes State Cup, President's Cup, Stanger Invitational, Real Cup, and the list goes on and on. Any in-state tournament that doesn't require travel, the registration for the tournament fee will be included, and it is included in that, you know, $975 to $1,750 fee. The higher level you're on, the more tournaments you play, hence the fee goes up. So that's new to the club starting in fall 2011. The uniform can be basically is used every 2 years. You can see there the $90 is for recreational. That's kind of the bare bones of what is expected. The jerseys, one pair of shorts, one pair of socks. On the competitive side, it does go up because we start adding in practice jerseys, practice shirts, sweats, sweatsuit bags, and miscellaneous items such like that. So that, but the expectation is your equipment and your uniform will last for 2 years. So that's not a per year fee. That's a 2-year approximation fee. Let me move to the next slide here. I'll check the chat room real quick as you look at that. Sorry, looking through this. Do they have to play here? Okay, I think we're pretty good so far on the keeping up with the chats and the questions. So this is just a more specific breakdown on the competitive side. These are the level of teams. Select is our top team, the first team, United second, Legends, Eagles, third and fourth. And then the yellow there, Mustangs, Wildcat, Panthers. That's our intermediate program. That still falls under our competitive program. You still have a paid coach. You have from the previous slides, it showed their credentials and what we're looking for. It's year round. All these coaches on the competitive side are paid, experienced, licensed for the most part coaches. Again, and then the recreational fee there, it's $320 for the year if you choose to play for the whole year, and $160 for the season. In these fees, it does include, for competitive or intermediate, it includes all your in-state tournament fees. So once you pay that registration fee, come team selection, everything's paid for, except, as you can see, the uniform. If there's indoor field space that's needed, if weather's bad, if your team does travel, the coach expenses will be paid for. But other than that, everything else is covered, as you can see there. We also want to make it pretty clear, competitive or recreational, we don't ever want to turn away families because of financial concerns or needs. We have quite a few payment plans, payment options. Obviously, you could pay up front, pay all in full. Don't have to worry about the rest of the year. We do have initial deposits, and then you get put on payment plans. We also do offer financial scholarships that you can apply for and earn scholarship money based on financial need. So again, we want to make sure it's clear that we don't want to deter anyone because of finances. We're here to work with you. Our staff is here to work with you. Todd Getty, our general manager, is here to work with you. And we can pretty much work out almost any scenario that helps with the different financial needs of people in the club. So next part, in line with the finances, if you haven't used them yet, hopefully, after this conversation, you contact us and get on it. But if you shop at King Soopers or Safeway, there's the grocery program, where 80%, roughly 80% of your purchases quarterly go back into your account, and that can be used to pay for basically any sort of soccer related stuff for your child, including registration fees, uniforms, indoor time if need be, all sorts of stuff like that. So please try to utilize that, the grocery card fundraiser program. If you're not sure what that is, you can email us and we can get you going on that program. There's also Script. You might be familiar with that from schools with gift cards and whatnot, but money gets back into your account. So, I'm going to leave this slide up. I think we have a couple questions. All right, it looks like James Rooks, our boys director, was able to answer some of this chat since someone has to leave here. So they asked about tryouts, which is good because that leads into the next thing here. So decisions and what's next. Hopefully, again, that was a quick overview of everything. We will be sending these slides, this presentation and everything out as well, so you can look it over again in more detail and more depth. But so now the next step is, what do we do next? We're parents. What do we do next? What do we do best for our child? First off, you can always ask us questions. You can reach out to us. You can email. We can answer anything more in depth. If you choose to go the recreational route, great. We just want to make sure everyone keeps playing and keeps engaged in soccer and keeps playing at Edge Soccer Club. So starting May 15th, which is towards the end of your current spring season, you will have options to start registering for the fall. And Adam Creasy, our recreational director for the 9s and older, he'll be sending all that information out. As you can see, those teams get formed in early August. The weekend after Labor Day, so the second weekend of September, is when that league starts, similar to what you would have just went through if you're playing recreational soccer. And then you could see Adam's contact information there. On the competitive side, because there is a tryout involved, tryouts are involved. You can see there June 1st and June 2nd are when we're holding tryouts. That's a state rule. You can't hold tryouts in the state of Colorado until the Tuesday after Memorial Day. So if you're looking at other clubs, or you come from a different club, or you hear from friends of other clubs and you ask, why are all the tryouts going to be on June 1st and 2nd? Why do clubs do that? That's point blank. It's just because it's a state rule. That's the first time we're allowed to do it. The next slide's here. So if you are going or considering the route of the tryout, as you can see up here, June 1st and 2nd, they're going to be held at Long Lake Ranch in Arvada. The times, we are finalizing the times. It will be at some point during the day. It could start as early as 9 a.m. or as late as 4 p.m. We'll run tryouts for all of our age groups throughout the day. Once those times get set here by the end of April, we'll email, and it'll be all blasted through social media, and on our website it'll be pretty clear what times those are, but you can see the dates, June 1st and 2nd. We do recommend your child attend both days. Sometimes it's not feasible. We understand that. So if you can't attend both, we ask you to email the director. So the boys director or the girls director. We have some finishing slides here with that contact information. So, and as you can see, we will have up-to-date tryout information. We do have on our website a tab that says tryouts, and you can find all the up-to-date information on there. We want to make sure it's clear the player assessment. We don't wait until the final 2 days, the June 1st and June 2nd. We don't wait just for those 2 days to make decisions. Decisions are being made ongoing. Our staff would have or will be watching the players through their current 10U season. There'll be kick-arounds that I'll get to here in a second. And then our staff will also engage with the recreational coaches or the academy select coaches, depending on what team or program your child's in, to make sure to get their feedback. So it's kind of an all-encompassing thing. If there's anyone from outside Edge who's currently not playing with us, we just ask you to please contact the director soon so they can get a good assessment of your child based on either knowing them or seeing them. If they're going to play at Stanger, maybe you know, a game against an Edge team. Sometimes they come out and can participate in a practices through the spring. We do have kids that come from outside of Edge, current rec or academy select program, that do join us at 11 and under. So we just ask you contact the director to get more information on you. The spring 2011 kick-arounds. So these are free. Those are the dates. Well, again, we'll post those as well. You can see April 26th, May 3rd, and May 10th. That's just a good way for the players, the parents, and our staff and the coaches just to get to know each other on fairly informal basis. It's 3 times, as you can see there. The families get to know kind of what a U11 and older type of practice might look like. Get to know other kids in and around your age group that you might not know. They might not be on your current team. Kind of meet and greet and just go out and play. So if that's of interest to you, we ask you to please pre-register. That link is on our website currently, and it will also be in this presentation. And again, this is all free. There's no commitment. We're not asking for any money. For the pre-registration, it's a Google form just to get your name. So contact information in case we need to, you know, make any changes with weather or anything of the sort, and just to be able to contact you at any point. So I'm going to flip to the next slide here. We do have some chats going on, so let me look at that. Yep, so going back to the tryouts, we had a question starting for June 1st and 2nd. Could tryouts start as early as 9 a.m.? Yes, that is a possibility. We're working on, we're finalizing the team coaches to make sure, obviously we want the coach at the tryout session. So we're working through the timing of that. But we could start as early as 9 a.m. We just did that last spring. It was quite successful. Well, it was in June because of COVID. A lot of it too, the weather, as we all know, with lightning and rainstorms coming in later in the evening. In the past, we've had quite a bit of stuff had to get canceled or rearranged, and being able to go during the daytime has kind of given us more time to ensure hopefully getting the whole tryout session in. We are aware that parents do work and kids, you know, they'll have to get to tryouts somehow. But with ample notice, you know, again, a month to six weeks in advance, which is when the tryout schedule will come out, we figure that the kid can get to the tryout. So how many kids are on a U11 team? I'll get to that here in a minute. I'm not passing over that. Team size. Question on the kick-arounds. If your child already practices on a Monday, do they need to come to the kick around? We feel it's probably best that they do come to the kick around if it is an interest of them, to, again, just to get to know the coaches, know the staff, get to know other kids there. Maybe out of the 3 sessions, if they want to go to 1 or 2 of their own team practices or 1 of their team practices and attend 2 kick arounds to help out. All we would say is, communicate with your team coach and or the director, and we should be able to work all that out. How many teams? We'll get to that. For the kick arounds on those evenings, 5:30 practice and leaves the kick around. Yes, you can leave the kick around early, not a problem. And we understand that the schedule isn't ideal for every single person. It's the best we can do to accommodate everyone, because everyone practices on several different days and times. So all we ask, again, is just communicate that with the staff at the kick around, either leading up to it or on the day of, to let them know, why you're leaving and what it's for. So yeah, some schools might still be in session, sounds like, for the tryout period. So we'll definitely keep that in mind. I'll backtrack. Someone asked about the kick around schedule. There again, there you can see it. This is also on our website in various parts, in the tryout section and in the competitive section and the recreational section. And we also will be sending this out, again, the presentation out, so you can go back and look through this. So there's the kick around dates. So back to this, specifics to the tryouts. What do coaches look for in a player? These are kind of general terms, technical, tactical, physical, mentality. What do the tryouts look like? We'll have a tent to come, or an area to check in. There'll be a quick technical warm-up, small-sided games, which is less than 9v9. That could be like 3 versus 3, 2 versus 2. And then we'll finish off with 9v9. That's the 11 and 12-year-olds. That's what the size they'll play on. You'll see coaches and staff out at the fields. We do ask that parents are away from the field. You can see our nice graphic there from, I think, Kicking and Screaming. You won't see any of that from the coaches, and we hope not to see any screaming from the parents. It's already a stressful situation with the kids out there. So parents, you don't have to go away. You don't have to leave the property. You don't have to leave Long Lake unless you want to. You don't have to go sit in your car unless you want to. But we will ask that, you're not, unlike a league game where you get your lounge chair or your chair out, 10 feet off the field. We will ask that you're quite a bit of ways away from the field, just to ease the players' minds and just focus on what they're there for. The big part, as you can see there in yellow, this is always one of the hardest things for families to understand and parents to understand. And I always try to bring up an analogy of school. So your child's future of soccer doesn't depend on just those 2 days of tryouts. Like I mentioned before, it's an ongoing assessment. We're reviewing them and watching them and talking to your coaches when they're in their comfortable environment, which is their team or practices, somewhat a kick around. So we don't want to rely on everything on the final 2 days. And the school analogy is, imagine your child's in 4th grade. They do quite well, A's and B's, or 3s and 4s, depending on what your school district does, but let's just stick with A's and B's. They do pretty good on most tests, turn all their homework in, and then all of a sudden, mid-May or towards the end of May, when end of 4th grade is coming, and there's one test, and if your kid does well, they get to go to 5th grade. If they don't do well, then they have to repeat 4th grade again. So hopefully that kind of paints a better picture. We don't want to rely on just 2 days of tryouts. They might have an upset stomach. They might panic in an environment like that. On the flip side, they might score 10 goals. But really, at the end of the day, they might have just had the best couple days ever, but you know, for the past year or so, you know, their level just quite isn't at that level, and we could potentially misplace a child on a team, and then that becomes an ongoing problem, at least for the first 6 months to a year. So please keep in mind that those 2 days, it's just the formality of the last 2 days to button up certain areas. So if people were to say teams were already picked at tryouts, most likely they are. And we just want to be upfront and honest with you. Give or take a player here or there per team. Again, that's our club staff's due diligence throughout the entire year, that last fall, this spring, even into last, you know, under-9 season, you know, or over the summer after COVID started, or when we got back after COVID. But we know a lot about the kids through academy, through recreational soccer, through a lot of input from coaches and just eyes on these kids. We know a lot about them. So we want to place your child on a team that's going to be best for their development. We do reevaluate kids seasonally, and at the end of each year. You do have to try out after every year. We hope there should be no surprises to kids. It's an ongoing dialogue throughout the year from the coach, from the director. If there is need to be moved up a team or down a team, it doesn't come as a shock or a surprise. It's an ongoing type of a communication dialogue. So here you can see our coaches for next year. So we only have listed the select team coaches. Jay Hamilton, he's our associate girls competitive director. So he's a full-time staff member on our girls side. You can see his licensing there. He will be our select coach for the 2011 girls. And then on the boys side, our select coach for 2011 boys will be James Rooks. James is our competitive boys director. He's also on this presentation. I know with the video in the boxes, it's kind of hard to see him, you know, live. But James will be our competitive select team coach for the 2011s. Our other teams, United and on down, again, we're very close to announcing those. We want to make sure that we have all that buttoned up. That's why we can't announce them right now, but that will all come out in presentation and email and on our website. So everyone will be able to see who the under 11 coaches are for next season and moving forward. So let me check the chat room, make sure I didn't miss anything. I think we're all good. Before we get into opening it up to others that might have, you know, more in-depth or questions I didn't get to, these are common questions that come up multi-sport athletes to start. Your child will be 10 years old next fall and then 11 in the spring. And our club philosophy is we still strongly encourage kids to play multiple sports. Doesn't matter what level. It could be recreational soccer all the way up to our select team level, which is our first team, and everything in between. We feel the kids are still at such a young age. Obviously, we want them to continue playing soccer as long as they can and want to. But we also feel it's extremely important for them to play other sports, basketball in the winter. We have several players that play hockey. We have several that play basketball. We have several that do cross country. The list goes on and on, lacrosse, all sorts of stuff like that. So we do strongly encourage that. All we want to make sure it's clear is depending on your commitment level and the team your child makes on the competitive side, there has to be a very good dialogue between the coach and the staff, and we have to be fair to the team. So for example, if your child plays on our select team or is picked to play on the select team and wants to play 3 other sports, so is going to miss, you know, only make 1 practice a week and will miss every 3rd soccer game, then that's where we run into issues. Because obviously during the soccer season, they've made the commitment to play. So if you're on the top team, there is from the much previous slide, there's a huge commitment level that we expect it. So we'd want to make sure we have that dialogue. If you're during soccer season, plays another sport, misses a practice here and there, randomly misses a game, we've been able to accommodate that and deal with that. But again, if you're missing 2/3 of everything, then probably playing on our select team isn't the best choice. You might play on a lower competitive level team where the commitment level isn't quite as high. And, but again, it's all about communication and having that dialogue with the coach and with our staff ahead of time. I'm gonna check the chat here real quick. Some just popped in. Perfect. Yeah, so how many kids try out or make the team? And that lends into the next thing, how many are rostered for Select and United? And is there a pool? For those of you who aren't familiar with Academy, they have been in a pool system. So going back to tryouts for U11s, on any given year, we could have between 70 and 100 kids try out per gender. We will form teams based on, again, mobility level. And in general, for the teams, we have between 12 players and 15 players. 15 is pretty high. 12 to 14 per team. So again, 99. If you have 12, that's 3 subs. If you have 14, that can go up to 5 subs. So we want to make sure we don't give a definitive answer, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure kids are on certain teams because of their ability level, not just to fill out roster sizes. So sometimes we go down to 10 kids on a team. Sometimes we might go up to 14 kids on a team, but knowing that the coach, wants to make sure that, they have to get playing time. They're not just there sitting, not playing much. We don't do a pool. There's no more pool system. Teams are set. Your roster's set at U11 based on the team you make, that you have your coach. Now there are players that can move, mid in the winter or the next tryout period in the spring, later in the spring. And again, that comes from a lot of dialogue. But in general, we make the commitment to the kid, to the family, based on what we know as our assessment, and want to make sure that we give the kid and the player the benefit of the doubt, because the kids do fluctuate in size and growth, and especially again at age 10 and 11, there's a lot of factors that go into it. So, but there is no pool system. Question: if the player tries out for competitive but doesn't make it, can they still go to recreational? For sure, not a problem. Again, our tryouts are early June, so everyone will know if they make a team or not. And then, recreational team formation doesn't start until August, so there's plenty of time to work through that. Those are those questions. Goalkeeper versus field player. Once we do get to 11 and older competitive, we do start identifying specific players that want to play goalkeeper. And they generally do play most of the time. They could play full time, so every minute in goal and not on the field. We do have some teams that have a couple kids that are very good goalkeepers, but they also want to play as field players. So we, depending with the coach and working through that, sometimes the goalie might play a half in goal and on the field the second half, or a full game in goal and a full game on the field. So we do encourage, again, we want players, if they don't want to commit full time to goalkeeper, that's not a problem. We do, if that's the case, we will put players on teams, competitive teams, based on their field player ability. If we do have goalkeepers that just want to play goalie 100%, we'll place them based on their goalkeeper ability. But if there is a field player that wants to play goalie also, the reason why we place them based on their field player ability, because if, let's say, they are a legend level field player, which is our third team, but they're also based on their goalkeeper ability, they are a first team, a select team goalkeeper, so the top team. Well, if they want to play on the field in a select team game, that's a huge, very, very big difference. That's a 3 levels difference. So we always err on the side of putting them on as a field player because that's what they're going to be playing. And then they can play in goal on the, again, in this case, the example, it's Legends team. They can play in goal for the Legends team and do goalkeeper training, which we offer seasonally, free goalkeeper training for all our goalies. But if they want to just be a goalkeeper full-time, we'll evaluate them in that part. So, and then I'll get to this last one and then hop on the chat here. So position specific versus multi-positions at the recreational level and academy level. A lot of the kids move around. We want them to experience all different positions on the field. As we get to U11 recreation, or sorry, competitive soccer, it does get a bit more specific. It's more like you made the team because of your defensive abilities. So you'll play, in midfield and in the back as a defender. Or if you're more of an attacking type of player, you'll play as a forward striker, number 9, a winger, possibly in midfield. It's not to say you'll never play defender, but most likely coaches will start gearing their lineup and their players based on, are they an attacker or are they a defender? It's not specific like you will only play center defender or you will only play left defender. You could play center defender, you could play left defender, you could play center mid, holding mid, defensive mid type of thing. So you will experience both sides of the field, things like that. So let me hop on the chat here. Okay, next one, full payment required upfront or payment monthly. Yeah, we work with everyone. We gladly have full payment upfront, but if that doesn't work out, we do have several options, as mentioned before, payment plans, scholarship opportunities, fundraising opportunities. So long story short, you can pay upfront or we can set up monthly payment plans, not a problem. And that will all be done during the registration process. You can pick and choose various plans. How many competitive teams are there? It depends on how many kids, 1, try out, and 2, are at that level of competitive based on our level of teams that we offer. This past year for under 11s, we have 3 boys teams and 3 girls teams. So that was the lowest we've had in several years, obviously with COVID and a lot of question marks on families if they wanted to play in the fall, what was best for their families and whatnot. There was actually a pretty big drop on the competitive side. Our recreational side picked up. Enrollment went up, especially this past spring. So kids are starting to, and their families, to come back to the game. So how many teams, it will just be based on how many kids come to tryouts. And then again, the ability level of those kids to be placed on teams. If a current recreational player hopes to play competitive in the fall and wants to do Edge summer camp, should they sign up for the competitive camp? Good question. I believe the competitive camp you might be talking about is the one late July. That's the week before the competitive season starts. You can feel free to sign up. Let's see, let me read this again. Yeah, feel free to sign up for that. And if at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out and your child is still playing recreational soccer, they can come out of the camp. It's not a problem. We won't charge them the money, or if we do at that point, we'll refund them. But you feel free to sign up for whatever camps, and then based on what program your child ends up you picking for your child, so either recreational or competitive, we're quite flexible with that as we go on through the summer. Here we go, roster sizes. That's actually, it's back to back. It's not 20 some odd kids on one team, it's their back to back, but we like to show this. To reiterate with that, usually it's around 12 to 14 kids for a 9v9 team in general. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's a little more. Again, it's based mainly on the ability level of each kid to make sure we put them in a good environment. You can see there the number of teams that we offer. Doesn't mean we'll fill all the way up to Panthers. We currently don't have any Panthers level teams. But if we have a huge influx of kids come in and we feel they're at that level, then we'll form those teams. Movement of competitive players up or down, this last one here, because of how we feel with our assessment of the kids, again, through their U10 year, fall, spring, through the coaches, through the assessment, and then the final piece there with the tryout, we, through our directors, tell our coaches, if you're going to pick this player, you have to be very comfortable with them, that you want to play them at least 50% of the time. When you get to competitive soccer, there is no rule. You could not, there's no state rule. The kid could actually not play at all, which is hard to believe. But from our staff, we always make sure we try to keep in mind that we want to play the kid. You should pick the child, the player, knowing that you're at least going to want to play them 50% of the game. Now, some games they might play 30%. Some games they might play 70%. But over the course of the whole season, it should be at least 50%, if not more. And the coaches do a pretty good job of doing that. So there are times though, sometimes players just outgrow their environment. So maybe they hit a really good growth spurt, maturity level, or whatnot, or it just clicks for them after 3 months of the season with their coach, with their team, their environment. It just, the light bulb goes on and it clicks, and the coach and the directors will communicate with each other. And if it's the right reason to move them up, usually it doesn't happen until the winter time, but it could happen earlier, possibly. Those conversations we'll have, and kids potentially can move up teams. Now the flip side could happen. Kids could move down. This is more of on our coaches and directors. If a kid was to move down, it has to be for extreme circumstances, not just, they grew, so they're a little clumsy for like a month. Oh, we need to move them down. That's not going to happen. It's more over time. Maybe their commitment level, they're not showing up to things. They're going to other sports too much, not communicating with the coach. Their ability level, maybe they did grow quite a bit. And for the next 6 months, it's been a struggle for them. Things like that. So those conversations could happen, but ultimately it's pretty rare we move anyone down, outside of maybe the course of a whole year's worth of soccer. But we want to be transparent. Sometimes it does happen, and those conversations do happen. They just don't happen once. They happen over the course of time. It isn't like tomorrow we'll call you up and say, by the way, we're moving your child down, and it's this huge shock. It would be something that would be talked about over time to work through with the kids. So there's no chats. So before we get to the final bits and pieces here, this is one of the very first slides. Again, we went through a lot of information, but to wrap it all up, we still want to make sure we keep it all in perspective. Soccer, obviously, playing any sport, in our case, it's soccer. It teaches you more than just kicking a ball. Again, you can read there. It teaches you life skills. It teaches you all sorts of stuff that's going to be extremely valuable in life. Team sports are essential to people, to kids, to learn how to deal with adversity, triumph, teammates and coaches that you might not get along with. That's no different than in life with bosses and professors in college and things like that. So as we go on, we want to make sure This is what we pride ourselves in as a club, is teaching them beyond just the soccer field. So if we have, let me pull up the chat here. So if anyone has any more questions, please put them in the chat room here. If you think of something later or you want to do it private, here are our directors. As you can see here, Adam Creasy, again, he's on, you can see Coach Tall Guy here on one of these screens. Ryan Hinkle, Jay Hamilton, they're our girls director, full-time staff on the girls side. And then James Rooks and Kyle Haynes, full-time staff on our boys side. So you'll be seeing them, you'll get to know them quite a bit. If you don't know them yet, feel free to reach out to any of these people, depending on, you know, what your question is. And thanks for your time. Looks like we're not really getting, let me get to the chat here real quick. Someone had a question about getting a good soccer haircut. We'll see who that is. Back when I played many years ago, the mullet was the soccer haircut. And I actually think it's coming back in style. So maybe get a really nice mullet, you know, to keep up with the time. So, all right. Well, thanks. Again, we'll be sending this out in the next couple of days, and appreciate everybody's time. Sorry I wasn't able to show on the camera Adam, James, Ryan, Kyle, and Jay, our full-time staff that are on this. But you'll be seeing them here real soon. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a good night.